Okay, I've got an intro.
I want to die.
There's our intro.
Ben, I love you dearly. Ben, I love you. You're not allowed to die during therapy.
Hello and welcome to Star Wars Every Week Forever, the podcast in which we watch one Star Wars movie every week forever, where we freshly now walk into our second rotation of the sequel trilogy.
Hooray.
Ben,
it was alright. Josh was there for half of it.
Yeah, that's true.
I started watching. I got to what part did I get to? I got 1 hour in, and I was like, I'm gonna play Doom, and Josh was like, what? And I was like, yeah, I'm done the movie. He's like, you're not done the movie. And then I did my ritual, finishing the movie at work while I'm doing other things.
Chris, how was your watch?
It was good. This movie's still dope as fuck.
This is the best.
I enjoy this movie.
This movie is still meh as fuck.
This is the best Star Wars movie of the entire franchise, I have decided this week. This was a great week. I had a fantastic watch.
All right, hold on. Hold on.
Josh.
Don't come off of my thing with that, because now I sound complicit. I do not agree with that opinion.
Nope, it was absolutely the best one. This is the only watch I had fun with this entire.
You're just saying that because you had like no special features this week.
I got done with special features on day one, and therefore The Force Awakens is the greatest movie of all time.
Let the record show that from now on, Chris and I can eternally tell Josh that his favorite movie is The Force Awakens. His favorite movie is A New Hope, but faster.
No.
Yep. It's on the record.
No,
It's on the record.
It's still pretty
too
dope.
late.
I am starting to see The Force Awakens as maybe the best one of this trilogy, even though I think Last Jedi is way meatier with the good stuff it has, but it's also very long and has a lot of not good stuff, so we'll see. I will say that the fact that this movie had 4 years of time to make it, whereas the other two had 2 years, whereas the normal Star Wars movie takes about 3 years, definitely shows. And it's also false to say that I had no special features. I got done watching the special features at 1:30 in the morning, but I didn't have to go into a second day of special features, therefore.
So to compensate, you watched the 501st Legion doc over again, right?
No, of course he played the the demo disc for Star Wars Battlefront. Josh, we love you.
Those fucking dice were in a deleted scene in this movie.
You know what
the fucking dice.
You know what I really love? I feel like I can't shit on you too much about the lack of special features this week, because I think you were owed that little with everything else going on this week. And the fact that you and I were on Discord until midnight on Tuesday together.
Oh, God.
So, let's just start
drinking heavily.
Yeah.
For those at home, we are recording this the week of the U.S. election.
Yeah.
It is Friday the 6th of November.
Uh-huh. Things haven't been decided yet. Chris and I are both drinking. Everything's great.
I've been drinking all week, except for Wednesday when I stopped drinking because I thought I had COVID because I was so hungover from the day before of drinking with Josh until midnight.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
This episode will come out the week before Christmas, so...
When people ask me, Ben, why do you worry about people so much? I'm just going to send them a link to this episode of the... I'm like, just listen... I'll be like, just listen to the first, 10 minutes, not even, probably.
I felt it was important to explain
when
we were recording this, because I don't know how long we've been recording, but we're not even talking about Star Wars anymore.
I tried. For the love of God, I tried. But no, yeah, let's hope everything ends up the way it looks like it's going to end up now to all of you who are listening this the week before Christmas.
So Josh,
Yes.
Special features.
I'm not going to start with special features. I would like to talk about another thing I discovered this week. So, while watching this rotation, I was struck with how disappointed I was in Maz. Because, like, Maz was probably the character outside of the main, like, cast that was presented that felt like she probably should have been way more involved than just in that first movie based on the character that she was made to be. And I started to get, like, slowly unreasonably unhappy that I knew nothing fucking about her. Not that the movies needed to explain to me who she was, but that it felt like they set up a very important character in Act 1 and did not carry it out in Act 3. So I did some research on Maz Kanata, and I fell down a Wikipedia rabbit hole. It's kind of fascinating, kind of absolutely batshit. So to start off...
Jesus Christ.
What?
Maz is old as shit.
Yeah, Maz is actually older than Yoda. Maz was born before Yoda.
What?
But yeah, she's older than Yoda.
I'm kind of pissed off about that. Anyway, continue.
Actually, it kind of worked out perfectly because last podcast, Ben, you mentioned that they don't talk about what happened with Bosch, with Leia's information. That's still the case. However, I did learn this week, while not explaining how it happened, that Maz was the one that got the suit for Leia.
Oh.
Yes.
Well, that's interesting. Isn't it funny how the simulation works sometimes, where you think about something and then literally days later find out exactly what you were asking about?
Yeah, that one was the first time I was like, well, this can't be real because that's just too much of a happenstance.
I want to be very clear for people who I'm not a conspiracy theorist. That was a joke. I don't want that to be propagated. As this goes on. I need to make that very clear.
So Maz Kanata is like 1,000 years old, and she kind of gained a reputation of being kind of like a pirate queen, because she would smuggle wares and supplies to smugglers pretty much throughout her entire life. And the bar kind of became the center of operations for that. She's also obviously Force sensitive, but she's never been like overtly Force sensitive. Apparently throughout the period of the Empire, she had to kind of downplay that because someone got word. She hired an assassin to fucking kill the person, and they kind of backed off because they technically didn't know. Like, the information is very sparse, but the gist I got from it was that the Empire was like, well, we're not going to fuck with her, and Maz in return was like, I'm just not going to act like I'm Force sensitive for a few years. But Maz, even though her cantina is like non-politics, like she doesn't want any fighting happening in there, kind of secretly back the Rebel Alliance.
It seems kind of off color to me that the Empire is like, nah, not gonna fuck with her.
Well, she has 1,000 years of history as a ruthless pirate queen. So much so that, and this is actually why I brought it up, Maz's design was based off of a doll that was found in Anakin's room in The Phantom Menace.
Yep.
Which I found fascinating, which means Darth Vader is well aware of who Maz Kanata is. Or at least knows the legends. So it kind of works in a way. Vader was like, oh, Maz Kanata? Fuck no, we're not getting involved in that shit.
I choose to believe at some point Darth Vader paid a visit to Maz and was like, hey, really big fan. Brought his little statuette of Maz with him.
Would you sign this, please?
I started losing my shit because I realized this is the part of the podcast we do 20 minutes of Vader.
I mean, we just wrote another episode of Downtime Darth.
I brought my stuffed animal with me, will you? I still sleep with it every night.
My God.
It's the only solace I've had since my wife died.
And my 2 unborn children.
It really chases away the nightmares of slaughtering Tusken Raiders.
Never explained, as far as I'm aware, how she got that fucking lightsaber, though, so that's great.
We do know, because of one of the Star Wars comics, that someone catches it in Cloud City as it's falling, apparently, somehow.
Yeah, well, that can be assumed, but, like, from A to B is still not explained, as far as I can tell.
I like to think it hit something on the way down, turned on, and sliced someone in half at street level.
No, because they're, like, in the main reactor shaft. Why the fuck is some shifty dude just hanging out there waiting for lightsabers to fall?
I'd like to point out a line that's said in the movie because I'm angry.
That's the alternative title of the podcast. Saying lines from the Star Wars movies that make us angry.
No, this line doesn't make me angry. It's that it went unnoticed that makes me angry. Rey literally says in the excited scene with Finn when they get into space with the Millennium Falcon, I've flown ships before but never left the planet. I'm angry. Because that's one of those fucking bullshit things that everybody says, I don't understand why she knows how to be a pilot. She fucking knows how to be a pilot because it says in the movie that she's fucking flown ships across Jakku before.
I would like to also question, though, within that, why was she flying ships?
Because she worked for asshole that you wanted to talk about.
Yes, but
she was
I just don't see him giving her a ship.
Well, he knew she wasn't leaving because she didn't want to leave, and she was a mechanic that lived in an AT-AT. So,
yeah, I guess you got me there.
Yeah. You wanted to talk about Simon Pegg.
Well, before that, on the topic of people complaining about Rey being a Mary Sue, I wanted to talk about something very much, because I was I've been going down the rabbit hole a lot lately of Warhammer 40k lore, and if we're gonna talk about Mary Sues, I want to talk about one of the Primarchs who are like almost demigods, because my god, Pedorabo, the Primarch of the Iron Fist Legion, I want to say. At age 1, he was known around the planet for his expert forging skills.
So this guy was just like the most competent toddler that ever
At the age of 1 year, at the age of 1 year, he decapitated a giant serpent that ate a child.
What the fuck? How jacked was this kid?
With weapons that he forged in a town on his own.
How jacked was this fucking kid? It's just biceps.
Yeah, it almost sounds like that the term that makes no fucking sense is only used in regards to women. Be hyper confident fucking toddlers.
I've heard it used interchangeably with men and women, to be honest.
Yeah, but
so I use it interchangeably.
That's not where it comes from, though.
No.
Well, yeah, but that's why I'm trying to make it interchangeable.
Yeah,
oh, I get it. I mean, I brought this up on the first rotation. Like, the piloting thing never bothered me. Because, like I said, I mean, first off, Rey is an analog to Jaina Solo in the original, the Legends canon, who was a fantastic pilot. But also, we know from experience with Anakin that people who are sensitive with the Force are naturally great pilots anyway.
Yeah, the other thing I was going to say is the people who complain about her being a great pilot obviously never watched episode 1 when a fucking 9-year-old destroyed a Lucre Hulk, all because he was good at pod racing. Did I mention pod racing yet?
I love how self-aware the bit has become at this point. That's just where we are now.
But yeah, that's my little rant about people who complain about Rey being a Mary, because fucking there's way worse franchises that have way more Mary Sue.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean,
and I wouldn't even classify her as a Mary Sue, to be honest.
No, I mean, you can.
No.
I think you can make some valid complaints about a couple of the characters in this movie. Rey, I have the least problems with in a lot of ways.
I have a couple of problems with her still, but like,
I mean, I have some issues, but they're not huge ones. Like, I mean, people lost their fucking shit when this movie came out.
Yeah.
You want to know what the worst part is to me? And I never really had like I identify with character in Star Wars. Rey kind of works for that for me, because like Anakin, he was a fucking competent toddler. He was that Warhammer character. And like Luke, all the information, like the thing that Luke has that allows you to not think about it, other than the obvious sexism of trying to cut down a woman in this case, is that he slowly learns to do things, even though he hops in an X-Wing, which isn't the same as a speeder, like, at the end of the movie, but, like, he's not hyper-competent immediately, but at the same time, like, he never felt like someone I can identify with. Like,
but also it's not like Luke's piloting comes out of nowhere.
No, I'm not saying it doesn't, okay. But I'm also saying, like, they are in much the same way Anakin's history with a pod racer is conflated to flying a starship. Luke's history with a speeder is conflated to flying a starship. Whereas
Luke had a ship on Tatooine, though.
Yeah, he had a speeder.
No, he had a ship.
Then why didn't he leave?
Because his uncle needed his help.
Why didn't he use this ship to leave when his uncle died?
Because 1977.
See, this is the reason why sometimes you cannot apply the logic that came out after the 1977 movie to it, because it just makes it worse. But no, yeah, this entire movie does a terrific job of setting up each one of Rey's skills, and I will not hear otherwise.
Yes, he had a T-16 Skyhopper. Okay, it was an air speeder, which
that's
comparable to a ship.
It's not the same thing.
It's not at all.
It's not. But yeah, it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit.
But yeah, Simon Pegg's in this movie.
Yeah, Simon Pegg.
And I fucking love it. My favorite thing is that we have a Star Wars race now that is based on the blobfish.
So Simon Pegg, he literally called JJ right after he got it, and he's like, "Is there something I can do?" And JJ's like, "Absolutely, I can get you in the movie." And then he was like, "Yeah, but if anybody sees my face, they're gonna be reminded of the Star Trek movie, and that might not work out." So Simon Pegg did this character bit. So continuing a long history of Star Wars movies being very badly planned when going to the desert in terms of the time of year. They filmed in the desert in the summer. Simon Pegg wore that suit in the desert in the summer. He did not complain about it in the special features, because he instead complained about how when they did the more intricate version with the facial features at the lot in London, he said that he was claustrophobic inside of it, and he kept feeling his heart rate spike. And that the only thing he could do to calm himself down was just repeat to himself, "It's Star Wars," over and over again. He referred to it as a silicon prison.
Jesus Christ.
But yeah, Simon Pegg's in this movie.
Also, for some reason, Unkar Plut's race, the Kralute, I believe I'm saying that right. The males are one species, and the females are categorized as another species.
That's a weird Star Wars thing, because if I remember in the EU, there was something exactly like that as well.
But, like, there's no, like, other than, like, obvious, like, sexual dimorphism that can be explained, there's no real reason, to my knowledge, why they should be classified separately.
Star
Because
Wars,
both of the species look very similar aesthetically.
Star Wars does something like that quite a bit. Like they do that with the Zabrix and like Dathomir in general.
Oh, true, yeah.
Like there's some like that has some weird convoluted shit. We're playing. Josh and I are in a Star Wars tabletop game currently, and I'm playing a Zabrok character, and I had to do research on Dathomir and all of that.
Oh no, but
there is so much weird shit surrounding all of that. Like there's like 3 separate versions of them or something. Like it's confusing.
Yeah.
There's a planet where just the males of the species live, and
because I was gonna say there are female Iridonian Zabraks.
Yeah.
But not Dathomirian, because Dathomir's fucking weird.
Yes,
yeah, Dathomir's very weird.
With the Night Sisters and it's all. So Star Wars tends to do that. I mean, like there's some weird biology at work.
My point is like the Zabraks, the Night Brothers they're Night Brothers, right? The Zabraks from Dathomir and the Night Sisters look like you could tell they seem like they should be separate species. These motherfuckers, I don't understand why they're labeled separate species.
Yeah.
It's just confusing. All right, it's time.
It's time.
It's time for what?
It's time for Salacious Crumb.
Yeah, I was asked to bring up Salacious Crumb, and I don't know why. Before Ben says
Salacious Crumb is just the trigger word.
Yeah, before Ben brings up whatever he's going to talk about, I want to real quick mention something from the Return of the Jedi special features. George let the crew name Salacious Crumb, and his first name was almost Sholacious Crumb. Sholacious, actually, because they went out and had a few too many drinks at the bar on their lunch break. One of the lead designers went to stand up and said, "Hold on, I need to lean down," and slurred out and tie my showlaces. And then when they said this, George was like, "Nah, that's stupid." And then 2 days later came back and said, "What about Salacious Crumb?" And which is very George.
I'm trying to imagine how defeating it must feel to have George Lucas tell you your name is dumb.
And then come back and act like the name was his idea all along.
So, Star Wars Resistance introduces us to a new species that I didn't recognize because it's apparently only new canon, only really appeared 2 episodes of the show. So, Salacious Crumb is a Kowakian monkey lizard.
Mm-hmm.
There is another species from Kowak called the Kowakian ape lizard. And it's literally just a Kowakian monkey lizard, but like 10 times the size. And I hate with a passion Coaxian monkey lizards.
Why does this podcast keep getting dangerously near
nightmare.
Planet of the Apes? I'm uncomfortable because I've never seen the Planet of the Apes movies front to back, any of them, and I keep somehow missing repeated Planet of the Apes references, but even I recognize that was.
I still have nightmares about these hulking, fucking salacious, crumb-looking motherfuckers. And I forgot to fit it in last episode, but it's in Resistance, so I could squeeze it into the sequel trilogy. And
welcome to this entire rotation for me.
by God.
BB-8. So,
Ooh.
couple things on BB-8. One thing that is immediately very different from how JJ works and how George works is that George would essentially just say, go do work, and he would come in and say, this is a good idea, this is a good idea, this is a good idea, and he would mark it with like a stamp to show that he liked it. Apparently there were weeks and weeks of them trying to come up with a droid over and over and over again, and JJ was just like, no, 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 rather than what George would do, which is just say, what is the best one of these? So then JJ sat down and made a crude drawing of a rolling droid and said, this is what I want.
There was a lot of BB-8 in the marketing materials. Like, they were selling the shit out of this little droid. BB-8's great, but
yeah, BB-8's
Jesus
cute as fuck.
Christ.
I mean, there's a lot we could talk about at Star Wars and marketing. And
it took me a long time to get on board with BB units.
I think they're adorable, so it was easy.
I've come around to them, but like at first I just couldn't. I was like, it was the weird kind of off to me. I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this.
Nah, I loved them. But I will say, I almost didn't love them this rotation because I got to see them on set. And obviously there's an animatronic, but when you see BB-8 moving very, very fast, it is not CGI. It's a guy in a skin-tight green suit.
In a green suit, yeah.
With like 5-foot rods coming off of the BB-8 unit, running
two of
very,
them, one
very,
for each hand, I believe, right?
Yeah, running very, very, very fast, just booking it from place to place, and it's really fucking funny.
They had something like 4 different versions of BB-8 for filming, and each one served a different specific purpose.
Well, essentially there was a puppet one, there was a puppet for moving fast that a person cannot be near it one, and then there was an animatronic. And then there was an animatronic for portraying emotions, essentially. But I cannot stress enough, this is so fucking funny. The guy who operated that version of the puppet said it was the most physically demanding puppet he had ever done. It was just between the green suit and like the giant fucking rods, and then just the image of BB-8 rolling really quickly. It's just fucking perfect. It was the best thing I've seen in these special features since Jar Jar on set. Like the on set dynamics of how fucking ridiculous that looks. It's fucking brilliant. It really is. I would also like to point out that even though there's no prequel music used in like all 3 of these movies, it's very clear that these short docs and then one long one, somebody else was working on them, because these fucking nerds put the Geonosis music over them building the Snow Forest set. That's so hyper-specific a choice. Like the Geonosis droid factory music.
Yeah.
It's like, you knew what you were doing. You literally sat down to edit this and said, this would be, the Geonosis battle droid music would be great with this, which is just weird, because who the fuck remembers that scene except us who have to suffer through it for the rest of our lives?
I'm gonna poke the bear.
Yes, Ben.
Starkiller Base.
Mm-hmm.
And Ilum.
Yeah, this is a thing.
This was a very heated discussion in our behind the scenes. Well, not heated, but there was a back and forth.
Yeah, I didn't during the podcast I didn't pick up on it, and I think it's really fucking dumb, to be honest. It's like the wrong kind of fan service. Especially since like Ilum is this, there's no such thing as a force sensitive planet, but there is such a thing as planets that have been marked by the force. And it feels super weird to connect Starkiller Base with Ilum without in some way playing into the fact that Ilum had that effect. It just, for a movie called The Force Awakens, You would think if they went to the planet of Ilum, which is sleeping from the Force because they destroyed it, Ilum would awaken in some way. But no.
I don't know, because I like it because of the way the story of Star Wars flows in regards to the history of the Jedi and Ilum and the Jedi secrets. I like the idea that the Empire essentially finds Ilum through their like archives. Because if you told me the Empire wiped out the Jedi and didn't go searching for like kyber crystals and stuff, that's like a Chekhov's gun to me, honestly.
Yeah, especially since like the original plot of Star Wars, the kyber crystals were like the Holy Grail.
Oh yeah, because that's what powered the first two Death Stars.
Yeah.
And then, so like obviously the Empire knew where Ilum would be. It kind of doesn't make sense to me that they wouldn't do something with it.
I think the thing that we couldn't, like, we had an argument, and then Chris came on and he was like, I didn't expect to get out of the shower and find that you were having a mini podcast episode in Discord.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
I think the thing we weren't connecting with in that chat, and I'd forgotten it up till this point too, was that I'm not opposed to the idea. The execution was shit.
I came back and I was like, what the fuck happened? Are we recording? Did I miss it? What's happening?
You can't. That's not something that you just don't bring up if you're going to take a big location like that.
I don't feel like it was. I don't feel like it was that big of a location to like the main movies though.
It wasn't. But this is a trilogy that tried to make, like, to put emphasis on the stuff that is outside of the movies.
Yeah, so if I get a break from that, I'm fine.
No, I mean, they didn't. They put little nods and stuff, but it wasn't like, here's this thing, remember this?
C-3PO has a line where he says, hey, look at my red arm, go buy a thing.
But that's just Star Wars in general. With merchandise always. I mean, that's totally different than shoehorning in EU stuff.
Here's
this trilogy did a little bit of fan service and nods and stuff, but I mean that's entirely different than, hey, go buy this thing. That's just Star Wars capitalism.
Yeah, I don't. It was done differently in this movie. I will continue to contend based on what we talked about last time, but that's not even what I'm talking about. The difference between this situation and situations in the past is that they took an established place that people knew about and then applied it to something down the line that they worked on and did not properly apply it, just made it this background thing. And that wouldn't be a problem if it wasn't for the fact that it was this important planet to the lore of the Jedi. Especially since this is a movie where a Jedi comes to it and unlocks her ability to interact with the Force through it. But you would think if you were going to do that, Ilum would come into that. And I'm not even saying they have to say it, but like they could do some bullshit where like the planet is funneling through her or something. But you have to, I think you have to reference it in the movie if you're going to do it that way.
I guess we're just gonna have to like agree to disagree on this. 'Cause I don't see the issue.
I do. It wouldn't be a big deal if it was like fucking some other planet. Like just some other planet that's important to the lore that is not in some way important to the Force. And it might not even be a big deal if the movie wasn't called The Force Awakens.
But Ilum, I don't think ever like reaches out. Well,
yeah, but I'm not saying it reaches out. Dagobah doesn't reach out to anybody, but it still is latent with the Force.
Yes, but I don't. I think that theme just doesn't. I don't see how that theme can transition into this movie.
So don't make it Ilum.
Because there's already a lot going.
So don't make it Ilum.
I would like to say, as is my role here, This is the dumbest argument we've ever had on this podcast.
Well,
Ever.
okay, so that's like, why does Yavin 4 have to have all this history and lore if they're not going to mention it in
There's not
the
a
movie?
lightsaber duel where a Sith and a Jedi fight each other on Yavin 4.
What do lightsabers have to do with it?
Well, because there's nothing. All of the shit that happens with Luke in regards to the Force in A New Hope does not happen on Yavin 4. If it happened on Yavin 4, it would be a problem, but it doesn't happen on Yavin 4.
I still don't think there's a problem.
But I'm not. Ben,
I'm
you're
just-
allowed.
having-
You're allowed to not think it's a problem. I'm just pointing out. I think it's a bad addition to the movie because it requires you to essentially block out the history of the planet, because 1 and 1 does not make 2. It doesn't explain it, so it's just this information sitting in the back of my head.
What isn't explained, though? That's the part that's confusing me.
I've explained it like several times. It in
All
some
you
way,
said is, like, it should have in some way interacted with Rey, but I don't see why.
because it is a planet that has a natural connection to the Force. And the movie is called The Force Awakens.
I don't see why that has to be.
I mean, I get what you're saying, Josh, but I think you're nitpicking a bit.
No, I'm if anything, I'm not nitpicking the movie, I'm nitpicking the lore. You can't just do things without repercussions. It's just you're throwing a live grenade and saying, this is the lore behind this, don't think about it, you're not going to see it.
I would be more confused if Ilum existed up until the Empire did, and then we never heard about it again.
Well, don't put it here, is what I'm saying.
I think
It's not
here is
that
the best place for it.
Ben, I'm not saying that Ilum shouldn't be brought up again. I'm saying this context doesn't work.
I know, but I'm saying this is the natural conclusion that would come from the Empire knowing where Ilum is.
Then why is Starkiller Base powered by the sun, rather than the kyber crystals that are inside the planet?
Because stars are powered by hearts of Kyber.
You're right. I do not see the entire debate, but I do see that.
You know,
It
you know
also-
what I want,
What's
you
up?
know what I want to talk about?
Anything else, please?
I want to talk
I
about
wanted
why.
to talk about how they use a fucking sun to power them, which means they essentially kill 2 solar systems every time they use this fucking thing.
I believe we talked about that last rotation.
Did we?
did, yeah.
Fuck.
Did.
Let's start
I
keeping a tally.
I want to talk about why Hoogens didn't get more screen time.
Excuse me?
Hoogens. I'm mad that Hoogens didn't get more screen time.
I'm sorry.
So Hoogens was a male bounty hunter, with like, what the fuck's the race called? The weird ones that look like they have gas masks on with like the little tubes. He was a bounty hunter,
That describes a lot.
but he was on Jakku and he was cleaning scrap. He was at one of those like tables where they were like cleaning shit when Rey got into the fight or whatever, and he kind of laughed and went back to cleaning, and then he was in line behind Rey. But like, he's identified in multiple media, including Disney Infinity, the failed video game from Disney Enterprises. He is identified as a bounty hunter, and he was unidentified, and the game identified him as being named Hoogens, and as a bounty hunter. But why was he just on Jakku cleaning scrap if he's a bounty hunter?
I've made like 3 Google searches trying to find this character that you're talking about, and all I've gotten is what is referred to as fake Wedge and a Naboo starfighter pilot.
Oh, Josh.
I too cannot find anything.
Hoogens.
Oh God, why is it? That's an awful spelling.
Hoogens.
So for those who don't
How do you
know,
think Hoogens is spelled? How would you think
H-O-
Hoogens is spelled?
Hoogans, not with a Z at the end.
It's Star Wars. Come on. Yeah, he does nothing, but he's a bounty hunter apparently, and he's just on Jakku cleaning scrap.
I look up Hoogens and I'm brought to a World of Warcraft account.
No, I'm on it.
Justice for Hoogens. Why did Hoogens not get to do any bounty hunting? Why is he just there cleaning scrap? What tragedy befell Hoogens before the beginning of this movie that led him to Jakku cleaning scrap? These are the questions that keep me up at night.
While at Nema, Hugins wore a green shirt and a mask that covered his face. Thank you for that closing argument. And all of this information is just about how he does menial labor.
I know, but he's identified as a bounty
hunter. You're right.
Like, what tragedy befell Hoogens that led him here?
He was cleaning scrap. He was overheard bothering Ray. He was washing tables. He laughed at another scavenger.
Yeah, like, justice for Hoogens, man. Let Hoogens do some bounty hunting.
He cleared a table of scrap. Like, that's the full article. And that he wears a green shirt and that he's a bounty hunter somehow.
Hoogens was the true hero that the New Republic needed. But they left him on Jakku to clean scrap.
What the fuck happened to you, Hoogens?
Hoogens, come on, man. The fuck, Hoogens?
I have a small rant. I don't even know if it's a rant.
Is yours also about Hoogens?
No,
I'm developing a rant about Hoogens.
Can we talk about...
Hold on one second. Can I just say this? Words mean things, Wikipedia. Okay.
No, wait, you need to expand on this.
What the hell does that mean? I'm just a male bounty hunter. And it's just menial labor.
Hoogens was menial labor.
They also, like, one of the more important things in Star Wars 2 is generally you want to know, like, what species they are, like, what type of alien. There's nothing.
No information. Just gender male. That's
just Hoogens.
Okay, Ben, go. I'm sorry.
I completely lost my train of thought. Chewie's bowcaster.
Okay.
I have several issues with it in this movie.
I also have a rant related to the bowcaster, but I want to see if you touch on it first.
So we see Chewie's bowcaster and he's shooting it, and I mean clearly like since the OT he's like upgraded or something because it's got like this effect where it'll launch things for fucking miles sometimes, and it pisses me off because like so they infiltrate Starkiller Base, which is another rant I have. I have a lot of rants today. And Chewie sees a stormtrooper, and he's like, oh, I'll shoot it. And the stormtrooper flies off his feet at like 70 miles an hour into the wall behind him. And then later, Kylo Ren kills Han Solo, spoiler alert, and fucking Chewie gets all mad and shoots him, and he's like, oh, my side.
Well,
and it pisses me off to no end.
I have a serious answer for this, and I have a storytelling thing that you are either ignoring or choosing not to understand about how JJ tells a story that I can answer it with. Which would you like first?
I don't know.
The first is there's a history in Star Wars of, and this is like a serious explanation, but not explained in the movies, so you can take it for what you will. There is a history in Star Wars of Jedi being able to take blaster bolts just because they have a sort of area of defense with the Force that doesn't allow them to be.
Okay. Granted.
The unserious version of this
also shoots other stormtroopers who just topple.
I mean, yeah. But the unserious version of this, the JJ part of this, is JJ breaks rules for dramatic effect, Ben. That's why.
But I want glories.
Also, and I only know this because of the EU, bowcasters can be charged as well.
Yes.
That's true.
Ben, you should know that. You've played Republic Commando.
I know, and I've played
Jedi Outcast.
Of course, I hate you.
Although the secondary firing mode in Jedi Outcast, it fires 4 or 5 bolts at once.
Star Wars Battlefront 2, the original, you suggested on this podcast this rotation, and it has the same effect. Are we doing tone poems?
No, we're not doing tone poems ever again. Ever again. That episode just came out this week, by the way, for when we're recording, and I was looking forward to it so much because of Rick McCallum, and then I fucking listened to it, and I got to the tone poem part, and I got angry all over again. Never again.
Chris, Chewbacca's bowcaster.
Chewbacca's bowcaster. Fucking, they're on the ship and they're running away from the space pirates. And Chewie gets hit and goes down. Han grabs the bowcaster and shoots one of them. And he fucking looks at the bowcaster, amazed. He's been traveling with Chewbacca for so fucking long. This is the first time you've shot the bowcaster?
I mean, Han Solo uses a small blaster. I imagine he's never wanted to fire Chewbacca's big gun.
But also, so we see Chewie shoot the bowcaster in the OT, and it functions like a normal blaster in that movie. I feel Chewie has modified this blaster, or he's just never used the charge shot in front of Han.
I will once again point to JJ sometimes breaks rules.
I'm talking about continuity, Josh.
I know. I'm just saying that's your explanation.
I'm a lore wizard. I don't care about real life.
You know, that bothered me every single time I've seen this movie, and it bothered me again today. Because like Han looks at this fucking thing like, whoa, like you've been traveling with Chewbacca for so fucking long.
Can't stop staring at Hoogens.
Stop. Okay.
Stop.
On the topic of background characters.
I regret bringing up Hoogens.
There is, I found out recently through a Star Wars YouTuber I watch that a character who appears in episode 4 makes their appearance in this movie. Their name is Trinto Duaba.
What?
They are one of the patrons of the Mos Eisley Cantina. And they canonically also show up in Maz's castle.
Can you please put this name in Skype so I can see who the fuck we're talking about?
I put
a picture up in the YouTube, I assume.
I put the Wikipedia article in Discord.
Trinto Duaba. George!
The species, Stenese, Shifter. Shifter is actually a part of the species name.
I was about to say, what's the species? Leprosy? What's happening here?
So in New Hope, he looks a lot like paler and more skeletal, and for a while apparently people thought he was a Vong spy.
So
why would they make two races of switch shifters?
Is this the same race as Zam from
Doesn't look to be.
No,
nope,
like
it's not.
Stenese shifter.
Oh no, I'm not acquainted with all the shifters. I'm not the lore wizard of the show.
So they're referred to as shifter because they were typically force sensitive and they could pass through crowds undetected. It doesn't say how.
Interesting.
Okay, I'm seeing the original version of this character, and they look nothing alike.
Yeah, they don't look similar at all. He's my buddy Trinto Duaba has seen better days.
My buddy Trinto Duaba.
God damn it.
You know, sometimes when we're doing an episode, I'm pretty sure of the name of the podcast. Sometimes I have no idea. Every once in a while, I know it when I hear it.
It emerges from the ether. Much like Trinto Duaba.
Ether of one of our fucking consciences.
Yeah, of one of our stupid fucking mouths.
Oh my god.
But yeah, that's my little little fun fact for today. Oh, my other rant.
It's like you interrupted yourself. It's
Oh fuck. I can't breathe.
You weren't even done with the, and you were like, move aside, Ben. Ben's talking.
Oh fuck. No. I'm crying.
We are off the rails.
Josh, there are no rails. We're the scene in the Polar Express where they're drifting on the ice.
Well,
So
us not barely talking about the fucking movie is a pretty good switch from the last rotation.
So getting on to Starkiller Base.
I thought we just got off that ride.
They decide to fly through the planetary shield, which has a refresh rate of the speed of light, meaning Han Solo has to be flying at the speed of light in order to go through the planetary shield. So within the gap, however big it is, between the surface of the planet and the planetary shield, Han Solo has to drop out of light speed before they would hit the planet. I don't know how superhuman Han Solo is supposed to fucking be, but you cannot convince me a non-force sensitive human being has the reflexes to drop out of hyperspace in that amount of time.
I mean,
because that is fractions of milliseconds.
You are talking about the same guy who completed the
Kessel Run in
12 parsecs, which is not a measurement of.
No, but canonically he's correct.
Yes, Ben. Once again, I have to point out that this is shit that they rewrote later. Thing. This is dumb, yeah.
It's so
You're
dumb.
right. I mean, you're right, but also it's a space movie for wizards, and we have gotten really obsessed this episode
Hold
with.
on, because you characterized that so weird. Because we have said multiple times these are movies. It's for wizards.
Yeah, the wizards are at some point going to catch up with us and kill us for watching these movies. We're really not supposed to.
This is very illegal. They're actually coming for us.
We've said multiple times that these are movies for children, and now we've expanded that to wizards. These movies are for wizard children.
So I was going to say, is it for both wizards and children, or is it specifically wizard children?
The children of wizards?
Yeah, let's not. No, we're not talking about the Bad People franchise.
These movies are only for children and wizards.
Oh, my fucking God. Can I try to steer us onto something semi-like...
You can certainly try.
Certainly try.
So, I barely talked about the special features this episode. I learned... through this watch, that Daisy, John, and Adam trained with bamboo staffs and bamboo sticks before they got their practical effects lightsabers. JJ was very specific about the lightsabers this time around. He wanted to be able to have them light up while they were dueling so that he could play off of the lighting. Because if you see on Daisy's face or on Kylo's face, you can see the lightsaber bathing them in it, and that's because they had practical effects lightsabers on set, and you can't really duplicate that in a way that works. There's a drawback to this. I don't know if it's a drawback, but it's like a very clear tonal direction from the way lightsaber fights are in this and the prequels. In the prequels, everything was floaty, is the complaint usually. And that's because they were using extremely light metal rods. These fucking things in the sequels are heavy.
Yeah,
like
I the one note I wanted to make, which was supposed to be another rant, but you've invited it. Both of them, or all of them dueling, are just Luke from fucking Return of the Jedi.
yeah, very much so. And
Yeah.
it's because these things are so fucking heavy.
See, it might be an unpopular opinion, but I love Kylo's lightsaber
Oh, it's great.
with crossguard.
I like it.
I know they're exhaust ports, but you know.
I like the best thing about that lightsaber is how unstable it is, because it's such a channel into the mindset of Kylo Ren.
Especially when you see why it's unstable.
I don't.
Because apparently, so I don't know if you guys know, synthetic crystals aren't a thing
Mhm.
anymore.
Yep.
Okay.
Instead, it's bittersweet because I love the idea of synthetic crystals, but I also really like how they redid dark
Mhm.
user crystals.
Yeah.
Essentially, a Darksider will get a Kyber crystal and use a process of funneling their negative energies into it called bleeding, and that's what turns it red. Apparently, in the process of Kylo Ren trying to bleed his crystal, he botched it, and it caused a crack in the crystal, which is why the crystal is deemed unstable. Which I like because it calls to that like uncertainty of his character to fully devote to the dark.
Yeah, and the really brilliant thing that The Force Awakens does, where instead of just having people called to the darkness, you're also called to the light. I wrote this big rant in my notes that I'm not really going to talk much about, because as I was typing it, I was talking myself out of it, about how I almost wish if I could go back and rewrite Star Wars, all Sith lightsabers were like that, because that unstableness, it especially works for Kylo Ren, but that unstableness almost works for the entire group for me, and it also makes them very visually different from the heroes. Specifically with Kylo, it's great.
You don't tend to get a lot of that with the Sith in Star Wars. I mean, that's what's the fucking. I know I'm gonna get crucified probably by a resident lore wizard who what's the quote, only Sith feel in absolutes.
Yeah.
You don't tend to get Siths who have any doubt or pullback, like once it's done it tends to be done.
Yeah, I more mean that no matter how well planned their entire pathway is, no matter if it's the rule of two that specifically moved everything behind the scenes for 1,000 years to create what happened, it's always in some way chaotic. Their planning creates chaos.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of making Sith very visually different than Jedi, because I think, and Revenge of the Sith, great movie, but especially that one, your hero and villain very often feel the same in that movie, like same set of skills, and I am a big fan of making them look as different as humanly possible.
Yeah, there's I mean, other than Kylo, I think the only Sith I can think of, other than my beloved Jason from the EU books, other than Kylo, the only Sith I can think of would be Darth Vader, that kind of had a little bit of pullback occasionally to the light. Yeah. They've done that in the comics, and I can't talk much about it because the best moment of that comes from Rebels.
Unfortunately, I know what it is.
Or fucking Revan.
Well, yeah, Revan's
He's like the penultimate fucking
absolutely.
Because he goes from light to dark like every other fucking day.
But there's different circumstances surrounding that.
Yeah. It's different because...
And also the canon is cloudy. That's...
Yeah. It's a bit muddy.
And it's also different because, it's a video game where you can control the choices. So it's...
Obviously, it's
a little bit different. But no, I agree with you. Revan's definitely...
To KOTOR's credit, it said this is a choice game, but you can make the choices however you want, but there's a very clear canon, and that's Revan turns to the light side, and after he comes back, and like the Jedi exiles a woman and is a part of the light side and that kind of stuff. But Revan's very different because he basically had a mind wipe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Spoilers for a game that came out when I was 9 years old.
I didn't finish it yet. Stop.
I've been trying to convince you to play that game since I met you, so...
Also, your whole shtick is like you're the Old Republic
I know.
nerd.
I know, it upsets me. He says he doesn't like the gameplay.
No, I like the gameplay.
I mean, I don't blame you on that. It's
This was
definitely dated.
recent time. Well, I had a hard time getting into it because I was never like inclined towards games like that. But since I started playing like actual tabletop RPGs,
Yeah.
the game makes a lot more sense to me.
I still have a hard time with anything that's like that weird real-time pause combat. I very much prefer turn-based like Divinity or the new Baldur's Gate 3, which is also by the guys who do Divinity.
Yeah. That's also kind of why I
This
like it,
was-
because it offers you that like pause and plan your things out. But
This most recent time I tried to sit down and play it, I got really into it, but then just life happened and shit came up, and it just fell to the wayside, and I never got a chance to revisit it.
much like when I started doing special features, I stopped playing Kotar, which I was replaying.
That's all right. I've still not finished Fallen Order.
I will say, though, it's been said a million times that JJ is a very visual director. He upsets me because I get so frustrated with a lot of his decisions, but, like, he gives me great fan service in lightsaber duels.
Yeah.
All I ever wanted was a lightsaber duel in the forest and a lightsaber duel in the snow, and he gave me those. And then he gave me one I didn't think I wanted in Rise of Skywalker, even though I think that lightsaber duel is not good, because of these lightsaber duels don't... It never feels like, with the exception of a little bit here, it never feels like they have momentum. Like, it slows down in a way that isn't, like, storytelling, like in the OTs, but it's still way slower than the prequels, and it always seems like I'm constantly being pulled in and out of the duels.
Yeah. See,
But then again, Steam on lightsabers, fantastic.
Yeah.
I really like... Kylo has my favorite lightsaber and lightsaber style, save for one thing that bugs the fuck out of me. So I am a historical sword fighting nerd.
I did not know this about you.
Yes. I am a historical sword fighting nerd in, various styles. Whenever Kylo switches to an underhand grip with that fucking lightsaber, I about have an aneurysm. And it bothers me so much. But like everything else, like just the little things, like use it like during the duel in this movie where he's fighting Finn and he pushes the cross guard into his shoulder and
Oh yeah, it's very good.
it's so good, but then he'll whip it underhand occasionally. I'm like, what are you doing? Stop it! Cut your wrist.
Also, like Josh said, with how heavy these lightsabers seem, a lot of the problem I have with these duels is how clearly they telegraph all their attacks. I know it's like acting or whatever, but like the prequels did a really good job of like making it seem like an actual sword fight. This one, it looks like two people with clubs.
I mean, I would say...
Because they wind up those swings so far.
I would say this does a better job of making them look like actual sword fights, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because
Kylo...
Yeah.
Kylo I adore because it's such like... There's a little bit of... Not flair, but there's a little bit of like actual form there.
Yeah, that's
except for when he fucking loses it and just starts like double hand clubbing them. Yeah.
Whereas, and I love the stunt director on the prequels, and he threw in a little bit of everything there, and there's some thought to it, but because they got so hyper obsessed with lightsabers being light, they do some stupid shit with those lightsabers, like a lot, in between all the good stuff.
And it bugs the crap out of me because, like, I explained to my wife when we were watching Force Awakens last rotation. I love that Finn picks up the saber.
Yeah.
And is clearly not great with it. But he's not... I wish they would have done a little bit of what they did in the EU to a degree when people were learning how to use a saber, where it's like, you don't expect it. You don't expect the blade to not have weight. It's something I don't think people don't think about because it's a laser. You you're swinging a handle with no weight to the actual blade, and it tends to like vibrate and try to pull away from you a little bit. So like that's why anyone who's not a Jedi tends to have an issue with it, because if you're not force sensitive, you're using the force to kind of control the handle a bit at the same time. So like I like that and it pisses me off in retrospect if they didn't lean into Finn being force sensitive, because it makes no sense. But I thought it was brilliant at the time because I thought it was leading to Finn obviously being force sensitive.
On that same note, another thing that bothers me, on top of the fact that in I forget what book it is, but one of the expanded books, it talks about Finn before, like, at his time as a stormtrooper in training, and he actually trained with that stormtrooper. I forget his actual designation, but TR-8R, as the internet dubbed him.
Oh,
he trained with him to combat lightsaber wielders.
Which is a real weird thing for the First Order to do, considering they don't think that there's lightsaber wielders out there.
Yeah.
FN 2199.
I thought it was 99. Okay. It bugs me with both the force sensitivity and the fact that it's not like he wasn't trained in the expanded content. And I get like Kylo's probably a good bit more well trained than him, but like he still doesn't really hold his own that well, I don't think, at least not to the degree I feel like he should.
Well, Chris just explained that. You don't expect no weight.
Yeah.
But at the same time, in theory, I think I like the lightsaber styles in these movies better than the prequels, but in actual practice, because of it's 100% an actor's thing, and these actors do a great job, but because they're so heavy, the lightsaber fights almost work in a way that's your brain's not trained to understand lightsaber fights to work in certain ways, and so it kind of feels like you're being kicked out of it. And I'm the person that doesn't really pay attention to form or that kind of shit because I don't know what I'm talking about.
I mean, it almost makes me more angry in retrospect that we didn't get like a proper saber duel between Kylo and Luke, because I think it would have been really interesting to kind of get the more classical lightsaber style against Kylo's, reckless power. Things, like it could have been a real cool...
I do think the first movie of this trilogy should have been the fall of Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
I think that's a much more compelling story.
No, I think the one thing... No, I wouldn't change it. Because I would change a lot of things about The Last Jedi, but if they just did what you would have expected with Mark Hamill, I think what ended up happening with Mark Hamill was more interesting, to be honest. I would have loved to see a proper lightsaber duel where fucking Mark Hamill doesn't do a Matrix back fucking thing. But I would not want to change this to get rid of the acting performance that Mark Hamill did in The Last Jedi.
See, you know what?
No, I'm not saying get rid of The Last.
It's and it's not even. I could probably make this argument more easily in Last Jedi, but we've already kind of broached the topic. The thing that bugs me the most with this in general is I can mourn Jason and Jaina all day long. Honestly, the thing I mourn the most probably from the EU is Mara Jade.
Yeah.
They could have easily done Mara Jade since they were having the temple get destroyed by Kylo anyway. You could have done at least references to Mara Jade and having Kylo kill Mara the same way that Jason killed Mara in the books.
But then you would have fridged her and I would have been mad.
Yeah, but I mean, you're basically
instead we got the EU content where the Emperor comes back.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like you would have basically been. My dad and I were talking about this the other day. Like you could have easily, with these movies, picked up where the books left off with Jason being killed, Jaina having to deal with all of the fucking shit that just happened. But it would have been confusing because there's a lot of years of books. But like, you kind of basically did that anyway. You just took out most of the most popular characters, like fucking Kyle Katarn and Jasmine Jaina and Mara Jade. And
Yeah, but the thing is, they didn't do that on purpose. They did it accidentally. 100%. Some of the stuff is very purposeful, but most of it is accidental. They didn't.
I don't know how much you can feign ignorance, though.
That's the thing. I mean, you pick up basically where the books left off. The temple's in shambles. Luke is...
Yeah, but that's also
Luke
the
is-
natural conclusion if you're going to bring the Empire back.
I get it, but fucking... Yeah. Like... Fucking look, give me Ten Ka, give me fucking Lobaka. I'm pissed off about all these characters that I love still, alright? God damn it.
So here's my problem with making Mara Jade just this character that was in the past. Unless you want to make this like a sequel to the EU, which I'm totally behind, I would have had to deal with much in the same way I had to watch Han Solo, watch Chewbacca die, and Chewbacca die, watch Han Solo die. I would have had to deal with the knowledge that fucking a goddamn Solo killed Mara Jade twice, and one of which I didn't even get to see. I know you like that series, but it still pisses me off to this day that they fucking did that tomorrow.
I'll talk about... At some point, I will talk about that series and why I love it so much. And hopefully we'll put this to bed because I have lots of reasons why I think it's really good.
I'm not saying... Yeah,
I think it's
that's a
really good,
conversation for
and
another
it's a great way to fucking kill the EU, which they did shortly after that series. You just end it nice and depressing, as Star Wars should be, because it's a really dark fucking universe when you take a step back.
The reason why Finn and Kylo worked so well is because apparently Kylo was Adam Driver was so aggressive with John with the lightsaber. John got fucking pissed off on set on like the second or third take, and they fucking whacked at each other.
That's awesome. I mean, it's probably not. I'm sure that wasn't a fun day on set, but
No, it's like they were like John was really happy that it happened afterwards, but on set he was pissed off. Well, I don't know John's mindset now, but yeah, it was like that worked so well because they were both pissed at each other. I would like to end this week's podcast by talking about the worst thing I had to deal with this week.
Oh boy, I ended on a high note.
So, Disney Plus was actually semi-useful this time around.
Great, glorious,
Disney
gracious
Plus.
Disney Plus.
Disney Plus, best
Disney
$7.99 in the business.
we're in our set. We're almost done with the second rotation and still no sponsorship. What the fuck, Disney Plus?
There were a lot of deleted
We sell our
scenes
souls to you, and this is what we get.
Yeah, goddammit. You've charged my incorrect card twice now, Disney Plus. I keep having to fix it. I mean, Disney Plus is great.
The deleted scenes, Josh.
Yeah, well, I wasn't going to talk a lot about the deleted scenes, although there are deleted scenes on the special features of Disney Plus that were not on the DVD, which is something that has not happened this entire rotation so far, which was good. And then there was also an interview that wasn't on them, so I got to watch that. And then there was what I can only describe as boomers pandering to Gen Zers. For episode 7 and episode 8, there are emoji recaps of the movies on Disney. And just to let you know what hell this was, I'm going to just describe the opening of this one. This happens in like 10 seconds. So I will read it to you. So, Luke emoji. Got sad and skipped town. And Kylo emoji wants to find him real bad. General Leia emoji. Yes, General and Leia emoji are separate. Leads a legit army now. BB-8 emoji has a Google Maps emoji to find Luke emoji.
Oh my god.
Got it? Okay, let's go meet Rey emoji. BB-8 emoji then falls onto Rey emoji. And
Josh, you need to
text
stop this
thread.
right now.
I had to fucking put up with it. You're going to at least hear this first 10 seconds.
This is awful.
I'm gonna cry into a ball and cry.
BB-8 emoji then falls on Ray emoji and begins the text thread journey. It's really bad. It's really bad. It's a lot, and it's very bad. The aesthetic of being on a phone does not last. Every once in a while, they'll just, like, switch to scenes where they're not on a phone anymore, or, like, the fucking Starkiller Base is on a tablet, or there's a non-emoji gif of TR-8R, who has the only sound of a human voice in it that's just ow sound effect looped when it gets when he gets shot by the fucking bowcaster. It's bad. It's really bad. Why do boomers think this works?
Because emojis are hilarious. And it's the best, and...
This has been Star Wars emoji every week
No.
forever.
You motherfucker.
Goodbye.
That's illegal. That's illegal.
We're out.
I hate everything. I'm gonna go fucking die.
Well, Chris has got to
Thanks for ruining therapy this week, Josh.
Howdy. It is Chris this week for the recommendations. We've entered the end of the sequel trilogy. And boy, do I have a doozy of a first recommendation for expanded universe content this week. So, initially this was going to be something entirely different, and then I remembered this existed. So my recommendation this week is Star Wars Masters of Terras Kasai. It is a PlayStation 1 fighting game in the Star Wars universe. Never heard of it? Well, that's not surprising. I never physically saw it anywhere other than my local Blockbuster Video, where I rented it like 5 times. So Masters of Terras Kasai is like someone looked at Tekken, went, I can do this. I need a good license though. Star Wars works. And then they made really bad Tekken with Star Wars, which hilariously, Terras Kasai is Finnish for steel hand, which is hilarious because Tekken means iron fist. So they weren't even burying the lead there. Still not convinced that you should play this? Well, let me take you through the plot of Masters of Terras Kasai. So, after the destruction of the first Death Star, the Emperor, being really pissed off at the rebellion, goes, I know how to fucking deal with these rebels. I'm going to go to Arden Lin, a character created for this video game, who is a master of the ancient martial arts of Terras Kasai, and have her hunt down the rebellion, the members of the rebellion, and challenge them to hand-to-hand combat. And that's how I'm going to deal with the rebellion. That was Palpatine's thought. So let me take you just quickly through the roster. So such favorites as Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, Han Solo, Princess Leia, Chewbacca, Boba Fett, they're all in there. But you can also play as such fan favorite characters as Hor, the Tusken Raider.
Holy shit!
Thok, the Gamorrean guard. Princess Leia, but in a bikini. Boba Fett. Did I mention Boba Fett? I think I mentioned Boba Fett. But there's also a secret character, Jodo Kast, who is only someone that the most obscure expanded universe readers would know. He's kind of a shit character who stole Boba Fett's armor design, essentially, and got killed by Boba Fett after he climbed out of the Sarlacc pit. Or if those characters aren't enough for you, you could also play as Mara Jade, who was mentioned in this episode. Great character. Or a Stormtrooper, who also appears in this game alongside Darth Vader. And you can play a real stripped down version of Tekken with Star Wars characters and also weapons, except for Arden Lin, who came unarmed. And I mean unarmed because one of her fucking arms is gone and replaced with an old droid arm. So, yeah, that's my recommendation. You can track it down on eBay for like $15. If you have a PlayStation 1, you plug in Masters of Terras Kasai and you can get literally minutes of enjoyment. But yeah, that's my recommendation for the week. Check in next week for my next one.
I'm gonna not steal Chris's thunder, but I'm going to also recommend that you go look at Arden Lin's Wikipedia page, because someone saw this game and thought way down the line, I'm gonna make this even worse.
I seriously, if you have a PlayStation 1 kicking around, you can get this for $15. You can have fantasy battles between Darth Vader and Hor the Tusken Raider. Hor can fight for his people and get revenge for that Tusken slaughter from Anakin in hand-to-hand combat in the Star Wars universe. Yeah. Bye.
Y'all, I went to see if
Why
this was the character I thought it was, and this character was alive in what in the EU was the oldest part of fucking history, which is one of the last books they wrote. So one of the last books the EU wrote was about Arden Lin.